It's thinking. All right, here we are. We're live. I got Jason Schwartzberg with me today of MD Energy Advisors, and I met Jason in Baltimore, Maryland, at a kind of a mastermind event that Ian Horowitz put together, which Ian was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Baltimore City firemen. The goal, I think, was to kind of get like firemen that he knew together, as well as like I think there's probably like 20 other investors from all over the country that came. And I met Jason there, and we started talking. And I was familiar with PACE lending, PACE funding, like and using it on deals and whatnot. And so we really got to connect and chat. And so I wanted to have him come on today and share his wealth of knowledge with everybody. And if you've never heard of PACE funding or using that for commercial real estate, like when do you use it, how do you use it, why do you use it, all those kinds of things. So, Jason, if you want to kind of give a better intro than I'm doing and kind of talk about MD Energy and like what all you guys do, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me on today. This is a cool experience. I feel like I'm having a beer with a buddy, and a bunch of people are eavesdropping on our conversation. But excited to have some dialogue with some of the listeners. But thanks for the opportunity. We started an energy company. I'll kind of rewind. I did acquisition development financing for 5 years out of college. We also did private real estate for 5 years, and then I've had an energy company for 12. So I say a lot of that because you'll see CPACE is really the cross section between those three disciplines. So it's kind of our sports center highlight. At MD Energy Advisors, we broker electricity and natural gas, do energy efficiency and solar projects. It's kind of one leg of the stool. The second leg, we have an energy staffing company where we staff engineers and business development professionals to the utility rebate programs around the country. So that's another leg of the stool. And then we finance the projects. That's how kind of CPACE came to be. Most of our clients are in the commercial real estate space in this core business. People came to us with CPACE. We thought it was a good opportunity to reduce the weighted average cost of capital. With the acquisition and development background, finance background, the private real estate background, and the energy background, you really need those three things to unlock the capital. And that's why we've gotten pretty intentional with the product.
Yeah, no, it's great. I know we've looked at using it on multiple deals that we've done. Haven't committed yet because a lot of the C class or existing stuff that we were buying, it just didn't make sense. But I know, like I said, we got a pretty big development deal that we're working on, and the plan is to use it for that. So, kind of maybe like walk me through like what does CPACE stand for, and like give me like if somebody's never heard of it before, what's kind of like the down and dirty on like what is it, can it be used for, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good question. So it's an acronym, CPACE, Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. So anything that uses a unit of energy or a unit of water can be financed as part of your real estate project. So the use cases are really ground up construction or gut rehab are really the two primary use cases. There's some renewable energy you can use it for. You can do some retroactivity in some markets. But I think for our conversation today, the primary use cases are ground up construction and reposition or gut rehab. We mentioned anything that uses energy, a unit of energy or a unit of water can be financed through the program. Things like roof, lights, HVAC, windows, building envelope. Those are the type of things, plumbing, those are the type of things we're financing. We typically can finance about 20% of the capital stack. So you're going to run out of our funds before you run out of eligible improvements in a project. So I think a good way to get our arms around the product is like a case study. So if you and I were going to build a $10 million project, ground up construction, just say we're doing an apartment building, traditionally we would get 65 to 70% leverage from a bank. So make the numbers easy, get 70%, $7 million. As a sponsor, we would put in 10% equity, takes us up to $8 million. And that last $2 million is the most expensive part of the capital stack, right? You can do it through mezzanine financing, which is double-digit interest rates, or you can do it through preferred equity. And if you do it through preferred equity, you're paying high single digits on your interest rates, but you're getting diluted. you're giving up ownership in your deal if
Yep.
you're going preferred equity route. So the thought process is, let's take that 2 million and let's finance it in a more advantageous way, and that's what CPACE does. We're working with that 10 million cap stack, 7 million bank, 10% sponsor equity. We're swapping out that 2 million, which was traditionally preferred equity or mezz, and we're financing it with this CPACE tool. And with the CPACE tool, we're financing the building envelope, the HVAC, the plumbing, those type of things that you're already going to have to put in anyway. If it's engineered the slightest improvement above and beyond base building code, it's qualified. And the value proposition to you as the developer is it's 6% money. So versus paying high double digits for mezz or paying 8 to 9% preferred equity and getting diluted, it's fixed rate, long-term, non-recourse, non-dilutive capital that it's in 28 states at this point, but your term is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30 years, depending upon which state you're in and what the upper limit of the program is.
Yeah, and I think that's like, there's a lot that you said there, which I think that, like I said, I'm following it because I'm familiar with it. But if you don't know, like, the ground up, obviously, I think everybody gets is that you're putting in, you might be putting in solar, you might be putting in, green everything as far as energy efficiencies go, and the highest quality windows and roofs and all the different things that go on with like you said, one part above building code. But what's really unique, and I've seen it more in like old, let's say you bought a strip mall or a mixed use building and it was built in the 70s, and you're going to build it, maybe you're going to make it self-storage, or maybe you're going to try to get it rezoned and do multifamily or something like that, where like you said, a kind of a gut rehab. That's where we've tried to bring it in on stuff that we're currently doing, and it hasn't worked for us because we haven't been, like, some of the renovations haven't been big enough to really kind of make it worth doing it. But I know, like, we've had, I looked at a building just the other day that was like what was it? It was like it's like 150,000 square foot building that we were looking at either, chopping it up and making it self-storage, or you can make it into apartments. I mean, depending on the layout and whatnot. But like a building like that where, because especially because you're making it an occupancy use change, you're going to have to bring it to at least the current building code, whether that's fire suppression, if we're going from a warehouse to multifamily, there's all kinds of things that you have to add to that building in order to make it qualified to get your certificate of occupancy to have somebody live in it. And that's where I've seen PACE really be, take an average deal to be a phenomenal deal, because like you said, it eats up some of that capital stack, so we don't have to give away equity to investors, or maybe we couldn't afford to do it. We're like, man, how are we going to raise all this money or this capital, and we can't raise the full amount. But if it qualifies for PACE, you just ate up a big chunk of that, and you're not taking equity, which is, it's from my understanding, it kind of gets attached to the building, so it transfers at sale to the new owners. They can get in at a low fixed rate, and then the payments are basically made when you pay property taxes.
Yeah, that's right. I want to press on a couple of things you said. The first is, the goal of the PACE is not to increase your project costs, right? Like, these are things that you're already going to do anyway. We're just getting a little smarter with what we're selecting. If you have to put HVAC in that's a CR 13 by code, you put in a 13.1, you could take 100% of the HVAC item. If you're going to do low flow toilets and low flow fixtures, you can take 100% of the plumbing line item. So our goal, we want to be green, we want to be sustainable, we want to reduce operating expenses. All of that's important, but our goal is not to, say in our example, it costs 10 million. We don't want it to cost 12 million for you to be, PACE eligible.
Yeah.
Then it's
Right.
circular. So very methodical about what we're picking and why and how we're going to qualify. So that's on the new construction. The litmus test actually on reposition is existing conditions. So if you have the 1970s boiler and you're putting in a new boiler, your litmus test is existing conditions. It's going to be PACE eligible. It's going to qualify. So those are just two things I wanted to make sure that we clarified when we're looking at how we're structuring these deals. To your point, PACE is not a deed of trust on the project. It stands for property assessed clean energy. If you've ever done a deal with a sewer assessment or a front foot benefit or a TIF or any of these structures, it functions similarly. It's all private capital. So this is not, state funded, anything else. Like this is all private capital that's getting lent into the CPACE program. The security is a special assessment of property tax bill. So it's not a deed of trust, it's a special assessment on the property tax bill. When you pay your property taxes, you'll actually see a line item that you'll pay the property tax to the municipality, and you'll see the CPACE line item on that property tax bill as well. The payments are collected when property taxes are collected. So if it's biannually or annually, however it is in that municipality, that's how the property taxes are collected. And there's really 3 hurdles to a PACE transaction. There's kind of this financial underwrite. We want to make sure that there's adequate debt service coverage at stabilization to pay the first mortgage and the CPACE. So that's kind of one hurdle. Excuse me. The second hurdle is that technical review that we were talking about. We want to make sure that it's going to qualify by the program guidelines, either improvement above and beyond building code or an improvement above and beyond existing conditions, are kind of that litmus test. Some markets require energy modeling. Some markets it's more prescriptive in nature. Again, if there's one knock on the program, there's not uniformity in all 28 states. There it is a little nuanced, but that's what people like us do, is stay on top of all of that. So financial underwrite, technical review, both of those can be done in-house. The third hurdle to a PACE deal is you need lender consent. It does sit at the property tax level. You need your senior lender to play ball and be comfortable with the structure. We spend a lot of time there. We can strictly source the PACE, like that 20%. We can source the PACE and the senior, that 90%. But we spend a lot of time educating senior lenders, and we have over 400 of them that have gotten comfortable with the structure. And the reason they get comfortable with the structure, it's a non-accelerating lien, right? So in that example, that $2 million we referred to earlier, if we lent you that $2 million, it sits at the property tax level. If for whatever reason a payment is not made, the only thing that can prime the mortgage is the annual debt service on that $2 million. So if that annual payment is $100,000 and the deal doesn't go as expected, the only thing that could prime the senior lender is that 100. It's part of the property taxes. When the property taxes are paid, the senior lender falls into place where they always have been. And that's how they've gotten comfortable with this structure.
So so you guys do, I mean, and I'm by no means an expert in PACE, but if I have a property and I'm interested to know, like, hey, like what benefits would I get if I wanted to do PACE? Maybe I'm in due diligence. Maybe I'm beyond that. Maybe I own the property and looking to fix it up. Like how do I go about? I call you. Like, what's the process look like? I call you. Hey, I got this property. We're either in contract or we own it currently or whatever. And like, walk me through how you guys qualify that. Because my understanding is you guys will do like a phase 1, phase 2, kind of see like what is, what are the benefits or what could be the benefits to me as the owner or the buyer, and kind of qualifying the deal that way, where we say, we see the benefits and we want to do it, or we don't. Walk me through what that looks like.
Yeah, good question. So we like to follow the hurdles, right? So we've tried to streamline this process as much as we can. Financial underwrite, technical review, lender consent, right? Like that's how we like to run our processes. So financial underwrite, with 7 inputs, we can financially stress the deal and make sure that's the easiest knockout. Make sure that there's enough debt service coverage to cover the senior and the CPACE lender. So that's always our first kind of. I'm a big decision tree knockout guy. Like if it makes it through the end, then we know we have a strong transaction. So we'll always financially stress the deal. CPACE is going to be helpful for your cost constrained deals, not your debt constrained deals. If you're currently debt constrained with your senior lender, there's not going to be additional cash flow to put on additional debt on the project. So you mentioned self-storage. Like CPACE works for all asset classes. We've done self-storage, multifamily, office ground up, office reposition, multifamily reposition. We've done theaters. It's asset classic senior living. It's asset class agnostic. There happens to be some asset classes that work better because of a cash flow at stabilization, right? Like if you're doing a self-storage deal, notoriously slow to stabilize, but they're 2 to 3 times coverage when they're stabilized. That's a perfect PACE deal because you're going to have plenty of coverage in that transaction in order to layer in some additional debt. If you're doing a multifamily deal and it's a little tight and you're at 1.25 with the senior already, like there's not enough free cash flow in that deal to put in additional debt. So from a qualifying, and that's not like multifamily in broad strokes. That's just if you have a tight multifamily deal or a smaller multifamily deal. So we'll always, from a phase one, phase two, we'll do that financial underwrite up front, make sure we have cash flow and make sure, we're in a good spot. The next phase is kind of that technical review. We need your projects to be scoped far enough along that we can provide you certainty on the project, right? So ground up, we'll want to see, have some conversations with your architect and your design team and educate them that we want to use CPACE on this transaction, so they're mindful when they're making their selections, right? So I'm doing a rehab facility right now where we met with the architect and the engineer 14 months ago, and we educated them on the CPACE. So when they were picking their wall assemblies and their HVAC and their windows, we already knew we were going to pass technical review because we had that conversation on the front end.
Yeah.
So new construction, we got to be pretty far along, right? We need to, or at least the design team to be mindful of the program, know that we have coverage and make selections that we know we're going to pass muster. With a gut rehab, it's a lot easier because it's existing conditions, right? Like we can just look at existing conditions and say, we're going to be better than all of this that's currently here. We have debt service coverage, so we're going to be in a good spot. And then we want to have a conversation with your lender as early on in the process as possible, because those are the 3 hurdles. We get through those 3 hurdles, we have a deal. Financial underwrite's easy. We just need your inputs from your pro forma. Technical review a little bit more involved, but again, we've done tons of transactions. We don't have any trouble, and we want to have a conversation with your lenders early on in the process to make sure we can get you all the way through and achieve that lender consent.
Yeah,
and that's where that's where a lot of our value comes in. Is we can work with your existing lenders, or we can bring in our own on the senior side, because you really need that senior lender to play ball in order to do a project.
Yeah. Now, you guys, and that's for sure. I mean, like they can really kill it if they're not interested or they're not comfortable or whatnot. They say no, like you're done. But so do you guys, like I'm out here in Columbus, Ohio. We have a deal that we got working. Do you guys send somebody out? Do you guys find somebody locally then that would come and kind of, if we're doing ground up, it's one thing, but let's say we bought a 1978 built place, no HVAC. It's got all through the wall unit. It's got, old stuff, and we want to update it and make it, not just, lipstick on a pig type stuff, but we want to really kind of get in and make this thing like really nice, a great area, whatever. Do you guys send somebody out then to do that, to walk the property, to look at everything, take pictures, like do all the documentation? Like, will you send somebody? Because I know you're based in Baltimore, but does somebody come out for the site visit? And then if it's ground up, I'm assuming that a lot of it can be handled from wherever. If it's you or if it's somebody on your team that's dealing with it, they don't necessarily have to come out. But it's a lot of, I guess that's the question is, who comes out and inspects it? Is it like a local inspector, or you send somebody?
Yeah, so we love to see projects, but we can do everything from our desk. We're in Baltimore this month. Just this month, we're closing 2 deals in California, 1 deal in Connecticut, a bunch of deals in our backyard in Maryland. So we are active in all 28 states. From a technical review standpoint, a lot of it is plans, right? Like we're looking at plans, we're looking at schedule values. That's how we're doing our qualifying. On the gut rehabs, it's cut sheets, right? So it's just inventorying what's there and then looking at cut sheets of what we're putting in order to get through the process. So long answer to your short question, we love looking at projects, but it's not necessary for us to do a site visit on every one.
Okay. And what's the runway? I know you kind of talked about like with new builds, you need a longer runway just to get people comfortable and to get, and I understand because we're going through that right now, like getting in there early as we're kind of laying out the plan and the framework and what it's going to look like and all those things. But like if I'm buying if I'm buying a 50 unit apartment complex in Columbus or some surrounding area, 70s build, like how soon should I engage you or call you or reach out to say, hey, look, I think this would be a great opportunity to use this. We'd be interested, like, do I do that as soon as I get the contract signed? Do I do that as soon as I get the LOI signed? Like how long does that process take? Because for me, it's like, if if it's something that we can actually use, I would probably want to know, I don't need to know all the details, but I would want to know, like, I get the nod before we're done with due diligence that, this is a deal that would work. I should be able to know by looking at the cash flow, the debt service coverage ratio, and kind of have an idea. But, if I don't understand that, or I don't know, when do I call?
Yeah, I mean, look, the earlier the better is always great. But just for clarification, we've done new construction deals retroactively before when they've already been built. We can retroactively pace the deal. So, as a rule of thumb, the earlier the better, so that we're all kind of thinking, the same things and speaking from the same playbook. But there's never, it's not too late, for us to look at a deal. We're looking at one right now that's mid-construction. As long as we can get lender consent, we can do it. Well, I would say the earlier the better, but we don't have to be that rehab facility 14 months ahead of time. That's probably the exception, not the norm. I'm looking at 4 self-storage deals now that they already have their permit set of drawings, and I'm likely going to be able to still get them 20% of the capital stack without them touching, any of the engineering that's already been done, or any of the architecture that's already been done on the project.
Yeah, and that's huge. For somebody that's put bigger deals together, any amount of the capital stack that I can get taken up by a non-equity borrowing person, is very big. I know in some of the deals that we looked at in the past, it wasn't even the debt service that the concern was, but it was more like the negative, and maybe you would classify it differently, but the net operating income is reduced because it's, you're basically taking on a second mortgage. It's the way that I look at it. But, you're having another bill, another debt service you have to pay. Now, maybe when, if I'm selling the property and we've done this and it gets underwritten by another group, maybe they look at it just like they would debt service, where it's like, okay, this is, you don't really count it. But that was something that, because I did one where it was kind of like retroactive. It would have had to have been retroactive because we were pretty much done. But that was when I first learned about this, that was the fear that I had was, well, man, this is going to cost X a year, and it's going to eat up the net operating income, which really, in multifamily and commercial in general, drives the value. And so, that was something that was a concern. Like, do you have other people that have had those concerns? And I guess, how do you talk them off the ledge or around that?
No, it's a really good question and fair concern. It should be treated as a below the line item because it's prepayable just like debt. You can prepay, your debt doesn't hit your NOI because you can prepay it. The CPACE shouldn't hit your NOI. It's a lot of education with appraisers. But we haven't had that problem. We show them it's prepayable. You can prepay it at any time. There might be a prepayment penalty, but you have the ability to prepay it at any time. It's a below the line item. To your earlier point, if you're doing ground up construction and gut rehab transactions and you're using other people's money, you should look at CPACE. I think that's the easiest way. Like, if I'm using OPM, I'm doing ground up construction, I'm doing reposition, we're going to provide you a great savings on your capital stack. And then the question is do we have adequate debt service? Can we get through technical review? And can we get our senior lender on board? But those are all things, that's what we do all day, every day.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, you're engaging with you guys, you know how to you're able to have the right conversations. If I go to a senior lender and I'm trying to explain it to them, I'm not the professional, right? I might know how to operate the property, but I'm not going to, I might make 7 points above pace and get 5 of them right, or 4 of them right, or whatnot. And so, that is, I think, something that's a benefit of working with you is you can kind of come in and close the deal, right? If they're not familiar with it, you can give them probably more education than they want, but help them understand that it's not threatening their position, because that's how, a lot of senior debt is like that. They want to make sure that they're taken care of, that the deal fits within their risk profile and in their little box. And, if you or someone on your team can come in and say, like, this is, I'm sure too, you have a ton of examples. So if they're not familiar with it, you can give them case studies or other ways, or even probably referrals to people that do work with you regularly to say, hey, look, call so-and-so, and they can kind of, tell you about the experience.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I had a conversation today at about 3:30. I've done probably just me 6 transactions with this particular bank, where they are the senior lender. We brought in the CPACE, and it's not even just educating banks, but they're so siloed. It's educating the individuals within the bank. Very good conversation, very constructive. I have a group that's looking at 5 self-storage facilities ground up. I think I might have referenced them before. One's in Florida, one's in New York, one happens to be in Maryland, and there's one's in Texas, and one's in Chicago. They're just super active in the self-storage space. Fortunately, they have the same lender is comfortable with them and is willing to be the senior lender. And it was a really good conversation, but it was like, not only have I done a lot with your bank, I can point to the deals that I've done with your bank, the underwriters that I worked with, and the legal, but it's still like, it's a new relationship manager. They want to get comfortable with the transaction. They want to understand how it works. So probably 60% of our time is educating banks on how this works, in order to unlock this capital for our developers.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So my deal qualifies, we move forward, the lender's on board. Like, how does it work? Is it like a construction loan almost, where like we have to do some of the work and then somebody comes out and inspects it and then funds get released? Is that how that works? Or is it, are we just given like a lump sum? Like how, walk me through that, because that's always kind of, I can imagine that is kind of cloudy to anybody that's listening to this right now. It's like, that's the, again, not knowing is can lead to people shying away from it. So
so our goal is not to duplicate efforts, right? So we'll piggyback with the construction inspector that the senior lender is using. We'll have a predetermined draw schedule that the borrower, the bank, and ourselves are all comfortable with. And I think in the majority of states, we'll just do power pursuit financing. So in our earlier deal, the numbers work out real well. 10 million, we lend 2, have 10 draws. We'll lend, power pursue with the senior at each draw. I think that's the easiest way to look at it. And again, piggybacking on their process. They're already doing the photos. They're already doing the write-ups. They're doing the title bring to dates when they need to. We'll just carve out some scope from their construction administrator or inspectors and follow that process.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it sounds great. Like I said, we have not used it on a project yet, but I'm excited to do it. And I know I've talked to other folks that have, and the couple of them that I talked with recently, they had like legacy commercial buildings here in Columbus where, they hadn't been updated since the 70s. They were like blowing out everything. And then it was going to be something that there was a very long-term hold was in their playbook. And so it worked very, very well for what they were doing. And I'm excited to see and work with you on the development we're doing to kind of get my, because I hate just talking about something and not really actually have gone through the process, because I feel, that I don't, it still leaves me with some uncertainty and uncomfortableness. But like I said, there's a lot of people out there that I know that have done it, and everybody that I know that's done it has had a great experience, and it's been beneficial for the project. So, what's the I guess so. If obviously, I don't know if somebody contacts you directly, but if we have somebody watching who's interested in doing it or wants to have your team look at their deal, like what's the process look like to get a hold of you? I mean, I know how I met you, but that's not how, if I just found your website, I'm probably not going to get you on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, just shoot us an email. I mean, we'll get back to you. I'm just Jason at mdenergyadvisors.com. So if you have something that you think might make sense, if give it some thought, gut rehab, ground up construction, a cost constrained deal, not a debt constrained deal. We would like to see projects of say like 3 million and above, like total project costs, so we can do a loan of at least 600,000 on the pay side.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an upper limit, but if we start doing deals smaller than that, there's soft costs in this stuff, and it might be tough to make it pencil. But I would say, if you could do a little scrubbing, your listeners for me in terms of, is it cost constrained? Is it ground up construction or gut rehab? And is it over $3 million of total development costs? And am I using other people's money? Like, we're going to add value to your project.
There you go. Yeah. So that you laid it out right there. So if it meets these things that you just listed, then shoot you an email, give you a call.
Yeah.
That's kind of the qualifying criteria. And it's good to know, even like for us as we're evaluating deals, like I said, there might be something that we come across where everybody else is passing on it because of X, Y, Z. But then because we have this in the back of our mind, we're evaluating the deal with that in mind, it might puzzle for us and work. Because I know we've lost deals because of our cost of capital. When we have a bigger group come in, their cost of capital is less than ours, so they're able to underwrite it better or different than we are. And using PACE could be that could be the determining factor of getting the deal done or not. And it's so it's just a great tool for the toolbox, which is why I know we wanted to do this today and kind of get the word out there. Because I know when I can't remember how I first heard about PACE, but it was like I was like, what are people even talking about when I first heard somebody mention it? And then Tim and I met some guys here locally in Columbus that they went through it, and it was such a pain in the butt for them to go through it on their own because they didn't have you or somebody like you, that they kind of started their own like one-off company to kind of help guide people. But they're strictly a line connector, that's all they do. Where you guys are doing way more than that. And so I think that it's tremendous value that we were able to do this with you today, that I got to meet you in Baltimore. Like I think I told you when we were there that if I came out and I only had one relationship created out of that event, it's well worth it. And this is exactly because there's not a lot of it's not well advertised. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's like a great kept secret, but if you're a big equity group doing tons of stuff, you probably know who to call, what it is, all those things. But if you're somebody trying to do your first or second, third syndication or kind of getting into the bigger stuff, you may not know what it is, or even if you do know what it is, like who do I call? Because I know initially we were like, well, we got to get on that, Google PACE funding in Ohio, and then here it takes me to this website, and then how do I navigate all that, and it's much easier and more efficient and better use of my time to engage with you and have you guys be the experts in it.
Yeah, I mean, we charge a 1% placement fee if we're successful, right? And that's financed as part of the deal. I just did one and happened to be in Baltimore. It was an old department store, an interesting deal. Reposition of an old department store to 108 multifamily units. We put the entire capital stack together: historic tax credit equity, senior CPACE, $22 million project, and we charge a 1% placement fee. It was interesting. We got the 1% placement fee on the senior paid through from the CPACE financing. So traditionally you'd have to pay a 1% fee on the senior because the banks don't pay that. We got it financed through the CPACE. So everybody's happy. We completed the stack. Our borrower was happy. They didn't have to write a check. So we have the ability to structure things that way.
Wow.
And I think from a mentality standpoint, I'm trying to win the war, man. I'm not trying to win the battle. If it's a deal that doesn't make sense, life is too short. I'm going to tell you it doesn't make sense, and we're going to shake hands and we're going to do the next one together. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to jam square pegs in round holes. We've been very methodical about this. We know where it works. We know where it doesn't work. We're going to tell you, and then we're going to close business. And I think you mentioned it earlier. People are templatizing this as part of their capital stack. The Ian who we met has done it twice, and he'll continue to do it when it makes sense. We just closed a deal for $13 million, CPACE only in California. The total capital stack was about $55 million, and we're working on another one. I just sent out the term sheet before we got on today for another $8 million. So once people understand it, they understand how it functions, they understand how it works, they templatize it as part of their equity. And we didn't really talk about this before, but not only is it arbitrage and reduces your cost of borrowing so much, it also takes the headache out of it. You don't have to pass the hat to 20 people at $50,000 a unit to raise $1 million. We have plenty of options to easily get you that money for the right project. Again, people are probably tired of hearing me say this, but cost constrained transactions, ground up construction or reposition, total development cost of $3 million or more. And if you're using other people's money, we're going to reduce your weighted average cost of capital for your project.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, that's worth 1% right there. I'll give you that all day long for helping me navigate through all of that stuff and setting us up in a great position to win, because like I said, to me, you can't put a price on it, but that's, I don't think folks operating at the level that you see or that you deal with are probably worried about it. But I know when you're first getting into it, it's like, it's like fee after fee after fee, like you're doing, I mean, sometimes it's like, it will cost us, we'll do a deal and, we're anywhere between $100,000 and $300,000 in fees. And it's like, people have to just kind of get over that stuff. I know that, that sometimes people could be listening and they're not in commercial. And they're like, holy cow, like that sounds crazy. But, all the things that we've talked about today, all the things that you've just, that you've talked about where you can navigate and you can get the ball to go in the hoop. I mean, that's well worth the money. And I can't learn it all. You know what I mean? Like, you guys specialize in it. You have a team that does it. Like, that's the thing that I want people to get to is that, to be able to have a connection to you, to be able to have somebody to call to, they can kind of evaluate their deal roughly. I think it's going to work. They reach out to you guys and see what happens. And if you get it to happen, I mean, the money and the capital and just everything that you can save them is so much more valuable than the fee. Like I said, I don't know, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I just don't want anybody to ever get hung up on that. I know the first time I ever used a loan broker for something and they told me what their fee was going to be, I was kind of like, it's hard to swallow. So, different now, but my very first deal, like I said, that's how it was. And I didn't understand why. And so, tremendous amount of value you bring, and even like today talking about it, I mean, it's amazing. So, I mean, like I said, if I met nobody else at Ian's event other than us connecting, it was well worth coming out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I people don't give us a hard time. I mean, the people who understand, they understand the value.
Yeah.
I mean, from a preferred equity, we're dropping their borrowing by 300 basis points,
Yeah.
and they're not getting diluted, right? Like if you have a $10 million deal and you can, as a sponsor, write a check for $1 million, we can get you to write the rest of the capital stack, and you can keep 100% of the transaction.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's why I'm excited to work with you on this project we have going on, because I don't even know what it will look like, but I'm excited to see what you guys come back with, because it's going to be tremendous for us. So
yeah, no, it's fun, man. I mean, and for me, like I told you, I did acquisition development financing out of college. I did private real estate for 5 years. And then I've had our energy company for 12. We're almost up to 40 employees in our energy company. But the PACE is like, it's all of that, right? Like I get to talk to developers, which is fun. I get to talk to banks and be a banker again. And then I got to be an energy wonk. I mean, I keep all my developers out of the wonky stuff. But you need to understand those three disciplines in order to unlock this. And I'm a big, companies compete on process. Like at the end of the day, if you look at what people compete on, it's process. And I think Amazon is probably the best example. I mean, you pick this up, and in an hour, if I want to, like whatever I want is at my doorstep, because we have, what is it, Amazon Now, or I mean, not even Prime, but now.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I was talking to someone the other day, like I'll even from a lender standpoint, like I'll pay more for certainty of execution. And, like I said, knowing that it can get done, and it's not, it's not like, cause I've had that, the very first like loan broker that I ever used, I thought he was great until he couldn't close my deal. Right. I was trying to do a refi. Thought it was, it was going great. And then here he just kept dragging on and on and on and on. And then finally he couldn't do it, just disappeared. And, and I've had, I've watched other guys have it as well. So, like I said, above all the other things, knowing that your group is vetted, that you guys, that you execute, that's huge for me, but it's also, I'm sure, huge for anybody that's watching that doesn't know you, doesn't know Ian, hasn't been connected the way that you have, we have, being able to find somebody that's trusted, that can evaluate the deal and make, and be honest with them if it's not a deal that's going to fit.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's our core values, right? It's, accountability, integrity, confidence, empathy. Like we subscribe to those core values all the time. And I'll tell you if I don't know something. I mean, I'm doing a deal in Chicago right now. In Chicago, you need to follow prevailing wage. I do know that so it doesn't have to be union, but it has to be prevailing wage. And I got a call before we hopped on, and the question was, does it need to be for every trade or just some of the trades? I said, that's a good question. I got to look into it. I'm not sure. I mean, if you're doing HVAC and the HVAC contractor is prevailing wage, but the electrician who's helping with the HVAC is not prevailing wage, like what does that mean? So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we shoot people straight, man. Like we tell you what we know, we tell you what we don't know. If we don't know, we'll get back to you quickly with the answer. And in 28 states with the intricacies, it would be impossible for us to know everything about every state. And in some states, counties, Maryland, it's county specific. Baltimore City is different than Baltimore County, which is different than Anne Arundel County. But we understand the program, we understand how it functions, we understand process, and we understand deal qualification. And if we get through those three hurdles, we're going to close.
Yeah. I guess the last thing is, so you're in 28 states. Does your website, like if somebody goes to your website after this, they see this, they're like, I want to check this out. Does your website show or tell what states you guys are active in?
Yeah, there's a map on the site. They're always adding states. Tennessee just got added. So we try to do our best to stay on top of everything. But both coasts are added for the most part. From Maine to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, not California, Florida, yes. Hop over to kind of Texas, Illinois, Ohio. You're starting to see a lot of Midwest states come online. And then California is another big player. But I would say the majority of the total addressable market for commercial real estate in the United States has a CPACE program.
Okay.
I'd like to see North Carolina, South Carolina get added. I'd like to see Arizona get added. They're all in kind of talks and conversations. And then it was unfortunate at the event that you and I met, some guys had some projects in Louisiana and Mississippi. They look like great projects. There's just not PACE programs in those markets.
Yeah.
It'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Like I said, this is great information. It's great that people can check out your website. Let me put it back up here again. Go to mdenergyadvisors.com, look it up and see if they're operating in your area. And then if they are, fill out the questionnaire or whatnot. Somebody will get a hold of you and see if it'll work for you. So, like I said, I know that Jason's vetted through other folks that I know that have done deals with him. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like I said, is certainty of execution, trustworthiness. That you guys do what you say you're going to do, and so I love it. Appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you guys have a great day and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
Too now.